Thanks for joining the Innovation Perspective. We dive into business innovation, exploring visionary entrepreneurs and groundbreaking strategies to help you, understand the evolving business world. Perfect for founders and the curious alike.
Absolutely.
Today, we're really focusing in what does business innovation actually mean? And maybe more importantly, why is it so vital, sort of the lifeblood for success today?
Yeah, that's the core question.
Whether you're just sketching out your first plan or you're, a seasoned pro, we want to cut through the jargon today.
Exactly, because innovation, it can feel a bit floaty, right?
Mhm.
Abstract.
Mhm.
So our goal in this deep dive is really to make it concrete. Show you how it's not just about, say, the next big gadget, but it's more fundamental. It's about rethinking how businesses actually work and thrive.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. When we say business innovation, what does that look like, on the ground? Because my
Yeah.
first thought, and I bet yours too sometimes, is always some new tech.
It's totally natural to jump to tech, yeah.
Yeah.
But business innovation is much broader than that.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Any new way a company creates value, gets that value to its customers, and, crucially, figures out how to capture some value back.
Mm.
It can involve new tech, absolutely.
Mm.
But it's just as much about, say, smarter ways of doing things, processes, or finding unique ways to connect with customers, or even coming up with totally new business models.
So it's less about just the invention itself and more how it's used, or maybe how an existing thing is used differently within the business.
Precisely. It's the application, the how.
Can you give us some examples, maybe some relatable ones to make it clear?
Sure. Okay, think about your local neighborhood bakery. They're probably not inventing new kinds of flour, right?
Right. Hopefully not.
Huh, yeah. But maybe they've innovated by, I don't know, offering super local delivery using a simple app.
Hmm.
Or maybe they've set up a subscription box, rotating weekly treats that people sign up for.
Oh, okay. I see.
That's innovating the customer experience, and it creates a recurring income stream for them.
Mm.
That's innovation. Or think about a small consulting firm. Maybe they don't have some earth-shattering new method, but they could innovate by specializing really tightly, focusing on a tiny niche market that no one else is properly serving.
So they're carving out their own space.
Exactly. It's a different way to deliver value and, importantly, to capture it.
Okay, I get it. It's about finding those unique angles. Now, you mentioned different kinds of innovation earlier. Can we break those down a bit? Help us get our heads around the main types.
Definitely. Yeah, it helps to categorize them. So first, there's product innovation. This is the one most people think of first.
Right, the new stuff.
Yeah, creating entirely new products or making significant improvements to the ones you already have. Think the ongoing development of electric cars. That's classic product innovation.
Okay, makes sense. The actual things a company sells or the services it offers. Got it. What's another big one?
Next up is process innovation. This is all about finding better ways to actually run the business.
How things get made or delivered?
Exactly. How you produce things, how you get them to the customer, your internal workflows, logistics. Think about how companies are using, say, data analytics now to fine-tune their supply chains, cut down waste.
Yeah.
That's process innovation.
Got it. So making the internal engine run smoother, maybe cheaper too.
Uh-huh. And then the third main one you mentioned is business model innovation. Now, that sounds like a bigger deal.
It often is, yeah. Business model innovation means fundamentally rethinking how the entire business creates, delivers, and captures value. It's about the underlying logic of the business. Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Think about the freemium model that's so common now, especially with software or apps.
Right, where the basic version is free.
Exactly. Basic service is free, but you pay for extra features, premium levels. That was a huge shift in how value is captured compared to just, you know, selling the software outright, like in the old days.
Wow, okay. So that's not just a tweak. That's often a whole new way of thinking about making money and interacting with customers. This is fascinating stuff, but let's bring it back to the entrepreneurs listening, the folks, in the trenches building their businesses. Why is understanding all these different types of innovation, why is it so critical for them?
Oh, it's absolutely critical. For an entrepreneur, I'd argue innovation isn't really a nice to have. It's often the difference maker, the thing that decides if you succeed or just fade away.
Strong words.
Hmm.
So competitive advantage then.
Definitely. Being innovative gives you that edge. If you're offering something unique or maybe delivering it in a way that just connects better with your target audience, well, you're going to stand out. You'll build loyalty.
Makes sense. Cutting through the noise in a crowded market.
Precisely. And think about this too. Innovation can literally unlock completely new markets, new customer groups who might never have reached with a more Standard approach?
Also,
Well, by thinking creatively about what you offer or how you operate your business model, you might uncover needs that people have that just aren't being met right now.
yeah.
And then you can build solutions for those unmet needs.
Finding gaps.
Finding gaps, yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just about getting new customers either.
Yeah.
Can it impact the bottom line in other ways, like efficiency?
Oh, absolutely. Process innovation, like we talked about, that
Yeah.
can lead to really significant improvements internally. Better efficiency, lower operating costs.
Right. Finding smarter ways to do things frees up resources, doesn't it? Time, money, people.
Hmm.
And what can you do with those freed up resources?
Reinvest them,
Hmm.
maybe into more innovation.
Exactly. It becomes this positive cycle. Innovate to get more efficient. Use those gains to fuel the next innovation.
Like a snowball effect.
Kind of, yeah. And maybe the most fundamental reason, especially now, the business world changes so fast, right? Consumer tastes shift, new tech pops up all the time, competitors are always trying something new.
Mhm.
If you're just standing still, not actively innovating and adapting,
Yeah.
well, you risk becoming irrelevant pretty quickly sometimes.
Yeah, we've all seen those stories, haven't we? Big companies that were once on top but just got left behind because they didn't change.
It's a classic cautionary tale.
Could you maybe give us a quick example, like a before and after, to really drive this point home?
Sure. Think about the traditional taxi industry. For decades, it ran pretty much the same way everywhere.
Yeah, hail a cab on the street or call a dispatcher.
Right. Then along come companies like Uber, Lyft.
Mhm.
What was their innovation?
Well, they used technology, the app.
Right, but it was more than just the app. It was a business model innovation. They leveraged tech to connect riders and drivers directly, transparent pricing, easy payment, convenience. The established taxi companies were, frankly, slow to react, slow to innovate their own models. And what happened?
Their market share just plummeted in many places.
Exactly. Now, flip side. Think about a small independent bookstore. Huge pressure from online giants, right?
Definitely.
But many have survived, even thrived. How? By innovating their customer experience. They host author events, they run book clubs, they build a real sense of community around the physical shop.
They become more than just a place to buy books.
Precisely. They innovated their value proposition. It wasn't just about the transaction anymore.
That bookstore example is great because it really shows how, even in what seems like a very traditional industry, innovation is key. Now, I know some listeners might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but innovation, that's for the big guys, right? The huge corporations with R&D departments and massive budgets. What do you say to that?
Yes. The innovation is only for giants myth. It's a really common misconception.
And it's wrong.
It's completely wrong. Small businesses, startups, they're often incredibly innovative,
Hmm.
sometimes even more so than the big players.
Really? Why is that?
Think about it. They're usually much more agile, fewer layers of management, less bureaucracy. They can try things out, pivot, implement new ideas much faster.
Makes sense. They can turn on a dime.
Exactly. And their innovation might not be, developing a brand new microchip. It might be a really clever, low-cost marketing strategy on social media, or a unique approach to personalized customer service that a big company just can't replicate, or finding a more efficient way to source their materials.
So it's relative to their scale and context.
Absolutely. The key is that they're finding new and better ways to operate within their world.
That's really encouraging. So you definitely don't need a Silicon Valley-sized budget to be an innovator.
Not at all. And in
Wow.
fact, if you just start to pay a bit more attention, you'll probably see examples of business innovation happening all around you, in businesses big and small, every single day.
That's a great point. Shifting our perspective. So how can people listening start to train themselves, train their minds to actually spot these innovations in the businesses they interact with day to day?
Just become a more conscious observer, really.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with any business, buying coffee, getting your car fixed, using an app, just take a second and ask yourself, what are they doing here that feels different? Or maybe just really effective? Have they changed how you order? Is there a new service they're offering? Is there something unique about their physical space or maybe their website or social media? Even tiny changes can signal that there's an innovative mindset behind the scenes.
And think about why you choose them.
Yes. Why do you pick one coffee shop over the one next door? Often, hidden in that why, is some element of innovation, better service, a loyalty program, a unique atmosphere, faster ordering. something.
So it's about being more intentional when we're acting as consumers. Okay, that leads perfectly to the next step then. How can our listeners start to cultivate that innovative thinking for themselves in their own businesses or maybe ideas they have for the future? Where do you even start to build an innovation mindset?
Well, I think it really begins with curiosity, just relentless curiosity,
Asking questions.
constantly asking why. Why are things done this way? And maybe more powerfully, asking what if? What if we tried this differently? What if we combine these two ideas?
Okay, curiosity. What else?
Pay super close attention to your customers or potential customers.
Mm.
What are their frustrations, their pain points? What needs do they have that aren't being fully met right now? Those unmet needs are often absolute gold mines for innovation.
So really listening. Deep listening.
Exactly. And don't just look inside your own little world, your own industry.
Look outwards.
Yeah. Look broadly. See how completely different types of businesses in other sectors solve their problems. How do they engage people? How do they create value? You might find surprisingly relevant ideas you can borrow, adapt, and apply to your own situation.
Inspiration from unexpected places.
Totally. And finally, I'd say, embrace experimentation. You have to be willing to try things out,
Even small things.
especially small things sometimes. Not every idea is going to be a home run, obviously, but that willingness to test ideas, even on a small scale, and crucially, to learn from what happens, whether it works or not, that is absolutely fundamental. That's how you foster real innovation over time.
Okay, so summarizing that.
Yeah.
Be super curious. Deeply understand your customers' struggles. Look everywhere for inspiration. And don't be afraid to try stuff out and learn. It sounds like innovation is maybe less about waiting for a lightning bolt of genius
Much less.
and more like a skill, something you practice.
Precisely. Think of it like a muscle. You develop it through practice, through conscious effort, by deliberately trying to see the world and your business with fresh eyes again and again.
This has been incredibly insightful, really valuable. So to sort of wrap this all up, what's the main message, the key thing you want everyone listening to take away from this deep dive into business innovation?
I think the core takeaway is this. Business innovation isn't some mysterious abstract thing just for tech wizards or giant corporations. It's real, it's practical, and it's a fundamental driver of success for pretty much any business, no matter the size or industry.
And it's accessible.
Yes. And it's a skill. It's something anyone can start to cultivate by being more curious, really focusing on the customer, and being willing to experiment. It starts with that mindset shift.
Fantastic. And exploring those practical, real-world ways innovation works is exactly what we try to do here on the Innovation Perspective. So thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure. Always enjoy the chat.
Thank you all for listening, and please do like, follow, and subscribe. And maybe, just as a final thought to take with you, think about one small business you interacted with recently. Could be anyone. What's just one small way, maybe even a subtle way, they could inject a bit more innovation into what they do? What might that look like? Something to ponder.